Hey, this is Allie Edwards, and I am here today to walk you through a process video for Project Life. I am doing a traditional weekly view. This is from week 34, which is August, I think 20th to the 26th. This is from 2018. So I am slowly but surely going through Project Life from last year, filling in the holes, and getting my stories told. This video is going to show you how I do that. All right, for this week, what I have a couple different things going on. I have my regular kind of photos in place here. I printed photos this time with white borders for all my 4x6 shots. Generally with Project Life, when I'm doing it in a weekly format, which is how I did it for many years before, I start with the photos, and the photos go in first, especially for these weeks where I'm going back in time and doing them. I often will sit and batch a whole bunch of photos or batch print a whole bunch of photos at one time, and I'll just go week by week and fill in the photos, and then when I have time, I'll come back and add in the stories, add in the embellishments, those kinds of things. So like I said, this is August of 2018, and I also printed out some 3x4 photos that I have across here. One of the things that I knew that I wanted to work on, if you saw my recent video using the Foodie collection with these rubber food pieces as a jumping off point, I wanted to use some more of that collection in a Project Life spread. So I looked specifically for a week that included some kind of food related story. You could totally do a full week of Project Life where you just focused on food and then use this collection of products to be able to support those stories. Or you can do like I do and just kind of fit it in week, 1 week here, 1 week there, those kinds of things. So with Project Life, sometimes I like to include longer stories. And I don't spend a lot of time worrying about like, does this go in Project Life, or should this be in a traditional, 12x12 scrapbook, or should this be in one of my 6x8 scrapbooks? I kind of have a mix of all of these different sizes going on. I just decide as I go, and I figure I'm getting joy from the process of telling these stories, and down the road someday my kids can go through, they can look at them, they can decide what they want or they don't want. I'm getting joy in doing it right now. That's my personal goal. So that all being said, I want to include some 6x8 inserts in this one. So that's something that's a fun thing to do as well. If you saw my video on my 9x12 Project Life, my 2019 Project Life for June, I included some inserts as well, and I'm going to do that, but this time they're going to be just 6x8 size. So let me show you kind of what I have here. I have one, had gotten a new kitten who now is almost a little over a year old. So I have a photo of him that I printed out 6x8. Then I have a story, a food related story that is Simon, my oldest son, is doing Boy Scouts, and he was working on his family life merit badge, and he needed to do a family project. And so his family project that he chose was doing some meal prep for our family. And I had written a big long blog post about it that kind of detailed what he did and those sorts of things. So I was able to simply go in and copy and paste the text from my blog post where I was talking about the meals that he prepped and how the process went. And I put them on two 6x8 canvases. You can do that in Photoshop. I used Illustrator just because that's the program that I use most often. And I simply copied and pasted and formatted it on a 6x8 size. And then I used a couple different colors of green backgrounds, and these are similar greens to what was included with the Foodie collection there. So that's part of the reason why I did that. So thinking of that in mind. So I've got 2 pages here. What I'm going to do though is I printed out another enlarged photo of Simon actually working on this, and we've got some here in this spread as well, but I'm just going to go like this. So this will be the back. That's the end of the story. This is kind of this is the start of the story. Here's a photo that supports it, and then on this side we have the picture of Ernie. So on top of this one, I knew that I wanted to add one of these chipboard pieces from the food collection here, and I could add it doesn't really matter which one. I mean, it could have been the Let's Eat one, but I think I like the In the Kitchen one better, but I'll kind of hold that off there. So I'm just gonna put this on here. These things like this, it doesn't need to be heavily embellished. Again, the products that I make, I want them to be supports for your story. So I'm just gonna go ahead and stick that right on there. I'm gonna grab a couple of 6x8 page protectors. I'm probably gonna add something onto this picture of Ernie, but I'll just stick it in here for right now. Maybe add a little story on there. This will just help keep me organized as I'm working on this spread here. I think probably what I'll do next is I'll go back into working on the spread itself and then come back and see if there was any additional things that I wanted to add on to these inserts. One of the things that's cool when you're using like a 3-ring binder, a 12x12 album, is that the 6x8 pages can be adjusted. They don't have to necessarily be right in the middle. With the 9x12 album, they just fit right into the middle, and these ones, this one I think it actually doesn't even fit in the middle unless you punch additional holes, which is totally possible. So these ones, they need to be offset a little bit, and that is totally fine with me. That doesn't matter. I kind of like the layered look. But I'm going to set these to the side right now because I want to focus on what I have in here. Now, my goal is not necessarily to use products from the food collection all over this entire spread. I do know that I want to use that card because that's one of the ones that I love, and I think that's probably the main card that's going to be related to that. I was going to see what other ones here, if I had specific ones. But like I said, this would be a really fun collection to use if you wanted to intentionally document a week in project life where you were focusing on food. Like that's just a simple and easy way to go about it. So I'm gonna go ahead and put these over to the side. And I think what I'm gonna do for the other slots here is pull some things from my stash, my card stash. So those cards will be either from my story kits, or stories by the month, which is another one. I think I'll look at the August cards from last year, but I could definitely use this card that says cooking is one of the greatest gifts you can give to those you love, and that can just be my starting card. It's nice with where it has the 2 reds spread across the spread there. Usually with stuff like this, I like to add on a label sticker. So let's see, I'm going to pull out my box. These have labels on them. These are from IKEA. You can get them in the bathroom section. I think they're called Dragan, however you pronounce that, Dragon. But I use the Avery index tabs to organize them, and then they just sit here on my desk, which makes it super easy to find. Like labels is what I wanted to look at, and I'm pretty sure that I had one that was a yellow. Yeah, so I'm gonna use one of these guys on here for my date, on my date card, and maybe actually I'll keep those out. The label stickers are one of my favorite things to add onto Project Life photos because it's just a quick and easy way to be able to add a little bit more information on there using those stickers. I've got numbers, hearts, stars, numbers. These yellow numbers might be a fun thing to incorporate. I'm just kind of pulling out the yellow. I'm really into yellow. I mean, I don't think I've ever not been into yellow, but I feel even more into yellow. Another thing that I have here on my table, sometimes when I'm doing, diving into project like this, I am thinking about how I look at what's on my desk, like what's kind of top of mind. And one of the things that I have here is a recent add-on to the story kits or to our subscriptions, and it was these hearts. And so I'm thinking I may use these throughout the spread as well, which is another nice kind of level of repetition with this heart that I have on there. All right, so what I think I'm gonna do is dive in. Actually, the yum one might be fun on this. Kind of just looking for little opportunities to be able to add these on there. I'm gonna go ahead and switch to just my overhead camera so I can kind of dive in and focus on what I'm doing, and I will do a voiceover so you can hear my process for getting my stories told in this Project Life spread. All right, let's take a look at this process here. I almost always start off just by adding the date onto that title card when I'm doing a weekly spread. So I use the label sticker with StazOn, got a little smudgy. I was okay with that. And then the next piece of my process, I added in one of the heart card with the quote about food on there. And then I'm grabbing chipboard because I'm kind of starting with chipboard, and I added on the Yum chipboard star there. At this point in the process, I'm not really sure exactly what is going to be my unifying element. When I'm doing Project Life, I often like to have some sort of unifying element, and it often ends up, or elements, and they often end up being added to the 4x6 photos. So in this piece of the process right there, what you saw me do was go into my stash, pull out some cards from the last year's August Stories by the Month kit and adding those in. And then I also pulled out those hearts that I talked about before that were an add-on, I think a couple months ago, to our monthly subscription. So we offer add-ons each month that are available to any of the subscribers. So these are a fabric, kind of a fabric-based heart, and I am adding them to the edge of a bunch of my photos. I like when things interact with the edges. So I'm using rolling adhesive to add them on, and then in a few minutes here you'll see me come back onto those and add on a word phrase sticker. I also pulled out one of the chipboard piece or chipboard heart from excuse me, that Stories by the Month kit. Each one of those includes a chipboard set. And so I kind of pulled that out thinking about that. But here you can see I grabbed a word phrase sticker sheet that was from a past week in the life offering. I'll see if those are still available and link them for you. But word phrase stickers are one of my favorite things. So I have quite a few of them in my own personal stash, as well as it's something that we offer often because words are big piece of how I like to document my stories. So I'm adding those on to those fabric hearts there. Great way to unify those photos across the middle of my weekly spread there. And then I'm kind of trying to decide what do I want to add onto my other 4x6 pictures. Do I want to go for all chipboard hearts? Do I want to look through all my things and see if I can find a bunch of chipboard hearts, which I could use? And I was kind of thinking that I was going to go that direction, which is why I stuck that chipboard heart down on the photo of Simon there. And then I'm also sticking in the photos with the fabric hearts on top of them because I knew that I was done with those, felt good about them. Sometimes you have to trim them a little bit, which is what, if you see me go off camera there, I'm using my trimmer to just trim them down so that they fit into the pockets. And then still kind of deciding, do I want to add a bunch of chipboard hearts? Is that what I want to do? What other things do I have available from my stash? Other heart-based things. Right now I'm looking through my chipboard collection, seeing if I could find some other hearts. And I didn't see any immediately, so I pulled out my box of hearts that are from my, how I have my drawers organized based on shape. So hearts, stars, circles, those kinds of things. And I had a bunch of both paper and plastic hearts from previous releases. And so I decided to go primarily with the red and the pink ones. The plastic ones do have a film over the top of them. The paper ones don't. And I'm using a tiny attacher to add those on top. So looking for opportunities to add something onto my photos to kind of unify those 4x6 photos. That's kind of the goal or the piece of the process where I'm at right now. So sometimes when I'm doing Project Life like this, I am wanting to add more words to my photos, or I am thinking, being really intentional about that part. But other times, it's such an awesome opportunity to play with product and to add some of that stuff that you might that you might have in your stash onto your photos. And I think this is a good way to do that and a fun way to use up your supplies and also get some stories told. So I just kind of played around. I looked for a bunch of different ones. I thought about adding that red one. I kind of like it from a color standpoint, from a color balance standpoint. But then I decided was covering up too much of the photo. I still wanted to be able to see all the Legos that are behind Simon there in that picture, which is one of the stories that I wanted to tell. And it's the one that I end up writing on that story facts card, talking a little bit about the Legos. So not forgetting that I had my inserts there, I decided to add the XO heart onto that photo of Ernie there, the large 6x8 photo of him. And then I also just used a pen to go ahead and write some journaling on there. The pen I was using this time it's called Micro Perm. It's a Sakura pen, and I'll try to remember to link that below as well. On those interior pages there, the 6x8 ones, I also added the Avery index tabs along the edge. If you've been watching any of my videos or, seeing how I've told stories for a long time, anytime I have an insert, I almost always put Avery index tabs on there. I just like that as an option. A lot of the word phrase stickers that I offer can fit right onto the backing of those, so you can use that, or you can use a stamp set, or you could write something on top of them. Lots of different options for that. In this case, you can see I just went ahead and trimmed off the extra and am able to then slip that inside the index tab. I just love, they're like one of my most favorite things to add to stuff. Just an easy way to like turn the pages too, and it really differentiates the fact that there's an insert there. So I did that for both of the tabs using stickers from this word phrase sticker sheet that was a previous Week in the Life product. And then I also added chipboard onto a couple of those pages, those inside pages as well, those 6x8s. And I think you probably already saw that in the process. Next up for me, once I'm satisfied with those embellishments, adding those things on there, mainly I just felt satisfied with the different hearts. I went ahead and started adding some journaling. I used a card that said, "You are enough," 1,000 times enough. That was from the August, I think 2018 Stories by the Month. That is available digitally, and I'll link that in the supply list for you guys as well. But just talked about taking the girls out for pedicures and, reminding them that they are enough exactly how they are, those kinds of things. I love those kinds of stories in my project life. And then I'm going ahead and writing a story on the story facts card. I stamped the date, I added Legos for the subject, and then I wrote a little bit about how I had gone around the house and photographed all the different places where Legos are living in our house, which is pretty much every kid has some in their room. The girls have a bunch, each of the boys have some. They're all still Legos are still a big piece of what happens around here, or it's an option, I guess, to have that be your activity. And then on the other card there, I just went ahead and filled in a little bit of kind of how I felt looking at these pictures a year later. It's a little bit of reflective journaling. It's a little bit of looking ahead in terms of what I knew was coming up. We were getting ready to go to the gorge. Everybody was getting ready to go back to school. Those are the kinds of things that I added to that piece of the story on that card. Thanks so much for watching this process video as I walk through a Project Life spread. Please make sure to subscribe here on YouTube. Check out my blog if you want more information about memory keeping, scrapbooking, and all the good stuff related to storytelling.